Good afternoon. Well, 13 years ago, I certainly did not think I would be standing here today. 13 years ago, I arrived with a backpack on my back to a small village of 1,400 people in the mountains of rural China. At the time, I was an economic anthropologist, just contracted by the government of China and a group of US companies to study a rather large intervention program. It was audacious. I was incredibly excited to be part of it. The plan was to have a new model for development within China, a program that then would be replicated across 600,000 rural villages with the goal of how you could increase the quality of life of those almost billion farmers across China without increasing carbon emissions. So a massive, complicated problem. So I arrived there, ready to get going on all of my work, and the governor stopped me, and he said, "You might think that you're working for the Ministry of Science and Technology, but I've found a new work unit for you, and you will be reporting there now." He walked me to the village school, and much against my will, I was required for the next year to become the village English teacher. I was rather angry, and I resented it. I had a whole program of work I was supposed to be doing, and nothing in a school seemed as audacious to me as this massive development program that was going to lay a new pathway across the country of China. Little did I know. I started teaching 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade English. What I learned in that year changed my life and has now changed thousands of others. But it's a topic that's now come up several times here today. But it was the first time I had ever seen the core of development. I went to that school every day. We had 60 children in 1st grade. We had 27 in 6th grade. How could that be? I actually looked into the population records of the village because I thought, I don't understand, was there suddenly a change in birth control or birth policy in this village? And what I eventually got into was something that now Gordon Brown has spoken about, Amel Karboul, Sir Ronnie Cohen, is that the greatest challenge of our times, in which I first saw in that one little school, is the fact that there are children in school not learning. Now, people talk about children out of school, and that's important, but what I can tell you is that the majority of children that are out of school due to reasonable economic decisions by themselves and their families. Because the opportunity cost of being in school is so high. If you go to school for 6, 8, or 9 years and still can't read, still can't pass your national exams, then for yourself and your family, there are other decisions you will make for your time. So I decided that there was something I had to do, something I could not do, which was start to look at education and what could happen, and could things be different? How could we make it so that it was worth your time as a child to be in school? And so that as a teacher, you felt empowered and prepared to be the person to guide that child on that journey of developing their potential. Unfortunately, what many of you in the room now know that I didn't when I started on this path from that one little school in China, was that this is a global problem. It's a problem across rural China, it's a problem across the majority of India, it's a problem across sub-Saharan Africa. So 10 years ago, we started Bridge. It's been a really long journey, but today we're now working with over 270,000 children across 6 countries for 3 different governments and 100,000 parents. But it took a long time to get there, and we wouldn't have done it without many of you in the room. So I wanted to take this time to speak about what I hope you will look for when you're looking at an entrepreneur that you're hoping will deliver value and great social impact, and what I hope as investors you'll consider as you make these decisions. So I have 7 rules I would like to propose that I think would help us all out a little bit. So the first is impact work has to be that thing you cannot do. When you look for an entrepreneur and for yourself, it has to be the thing that keeps them up at night, that they are personally committed to. Because if they're going to have impact socially, it will be incredibly hard to do. The systems that are in place today that ensure that children 500 million of them are in school and not learning, are strong. They will not change easily. You will have to be committed, your entrepreneur will have to be committed, and there's similar issues whether you're working in environmental issues or in health. Second, I'd like you to listen to the language that your organizations use and to the language that you use yourself. I want to give you an example, because I think if we listen to language, it reveals much deeper thinking. So one health organization could say to you, this year, we will deliver 100,000 bed nets to beneficiaries across East Africa. I've actually heard that said by a few different organizations. It's a very powerful premise. It's a powerful promise. They're very likely to be funded. It's clear. There's a number, there's a region, there's a direct output. Another organization might say to you, we are going to work with families, live with them for the next 3 months, understand what their exposure to malarial vectors is, and then come up with an effective plan with them that will change their behavior to reduce mortality and morbidity due to malaria. Couple differences there. One, that second organization is a lot less likely to get funding from most groups. Why? They didn't have a specific number that they were definitively going to reach this year. They didn't have a specific item that they already knew was going to be the success case. They asked you to go on a journey with them, to design and discover with these families, and their families, not beneficiaries. And I challenge you to hear that difference if you don't hear it already. There's a very big difference in a type of an organization that designs with the people they work with and they live with versus an organization that is thinking about sending them something. And if we want to have impact and actually change the experiences of families, whether it's in health or in education, we have to live with them, work with them, and understand the problem from their point of view. So listen to the language. Third, related, design for effective solutions. And this is actually where your capital should be going. I've heard a lot this morning about the amount of capital that needs to go into driving impact, but what should it actually be spent on? And this area of design is critical. It's one of the limits typically in work that is understood as being for social good. Because usually it's presumed that we already know the solutions, like a bed net or a textbook or some extra teacher training, and we just need to pay for more of it. If that were true, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in, where we still have 500 million children in school but not learning. If we already knew everything we needed to do and it was just an issue of money, we wouldn't have this problem. We actually need new solutions. Ensure your impact capital is going to research and development, that it's going to design work so that new things can be created and allow your organizations to use the capital in that way. It's the only way we'll find a new path and new solutions that haven't yet come to the fore. Related to allowing your impact capital to be used for design is the fourth suggestion I'd have for you today. Always start with scale. The problems are too big. No small dreams. Health clinics are audacious. Schools are audacious. They need to be, and you need your organizations to think big. A change in 5 schools changes nothing. A change in 25 schools changes nothing. Changes a few hundred children's individual lives, and that matters on a personal level. But we're talking about systems. So allow your organizations, require them to design from scale from day one, to envision their program, how it would work in 1,000 clinics or 10,000 schools, and the types of technological systems and support programs and internal measurement they'll need to make that happen from day one, because even if they're successful at 30 or 50 or 100 clinics or schools, those systems are going to break when they try to reach 10,000. Invest now for the larger scale, and that's where you'll have the greatest impact. Fifth, don't use ESG or environmental and social factors as a screen. Make sure it's core to that organization's business model. Make sure that nothing can pull them away from the impact, because it's actually what they do every day. That'll also make sure they're better at scaling because it's those hundreds of millions of families that actually need the investment in design services that will change their lives. Sixth, measure the final outcome. Not the bed net, the change in malaria exposure, the change in mortality and morbidity. Don't measure inputs of textbooks or sizes of classrooms. Measure if children are actually learning. Hold your investees to that. And last, if education isn't yet in your portfolio, you're missing the single biggest leveraged investment you can make. Whether eventually you want to work in health, if we're talking about child health, mother health, lowering fertility rates, or just economic development, the highest correlated return to economic development known today is a national increase of learning. And then you get a 5% increase in GDP. So look at education, build our countries, and find the organizations who will do that for you at scale, relentlessly, because it's something they cannot not do. Thank you.